Guys, what's going on? Happy Tuesday night. Good to see you all here. Guys, if I know that you're here, just drop the word funding in the chat. You guys should be able to drop messages in the chat now. I turned it on. And welcome. If you haven't been here before, my name is Andrew Imbesi. Maybe you saw me on a YouTube ad, Instagram shout out, Lending Tree. Maybe you saw me somewhere. And what I'm known for is helping people get 0% interest funding. In 2023, I helped over 2,000 people access more than $60 million from the banks. On average, in a 30-day time frame, we've been able to get, on average, around $100,000 per client that finishes their funding cycle. So super exciting results, and I'm super happy to have you guys here. And tonight, we always talk about a different topic, funding, business, or investing. And tonight we're gonna be discussing 20 business credit myths and the truth, because there's all this information out there online, and I'm here to actually tell you the stuff that you need to know about getting approved for business credit and how it actually works. Like I mentioned before, I've helped people get more than $60 million of business credit card approvals. And tonight, we're gonna break down some of the truth of what you wanna know. So at the end, once we wrap through these 20 questions, and we commonly get these 20 questions on these masterminds, so they're not just like some random questions. We often get these questions a lot, but save your questions to the end this time, because I'll probably answer your question out of one of these 20 questions that we'll go over tonight. But save your questions to the end. If your question does not get answered, we're gonna start going through tons of Q&A questions with the time that we have left. And by the way, guys, if you're already inside of my funding program, drop the word client in the chat. That way we know that you're inside the program, and that way we know to have your funding supervisor reach out to you if you need some assistance. But guys, if you're not in our program, well, if you want to access up to $250,000 of 0% interest funding for your businesses and investments, I left some contact info at the bottom of the screen. It's on every slide, so don't worry, it'll always be there. You could always drop your credit score and your phone number in the chat as well, and my team can reach out to you and they'll send you a text during the live. So you should get a text from us if you drop your phone number and your credit score in the chat and you're interested in getting funding for your businesses and investments. That's all you need to do if you're interested at all at any point during this webinar. So let's jump right into it, guys. So I got 20 different questions for you guys, and these are like 20 different questions that we often get on the mastermind. So first thing that we always get, do I need a Dun Bradstreet number to get approved for business credit? To be honest, guys, you actually don't need a Dun Bradstreet number to get approved for business credit. A lot of the times, these gurus online tell you that you need to have business credit score, that you need to have this, that you need to have that, and it's not always applicable. Really what the Dun Bradstreet number is really used for is to get credit with different companies, like whether it be like Shell or Cat or Uline or any of these other businesses, right? It's a business credit score used with other businesses, if that makes sense, right? The bank will pull your personal credit score, such as Chase or American Express. They'll pull your personal credit to determine whether or not you'll get approved for business credit. It sounds kind of weird and fishy, but we'll get more into it as we go through more of these questions actually. So another one that we get a lot too is, do I need net 30 accounts first to get approved for business credit? So to get approved for business credit, really what you need is a good personal credit score. You need to have a business, you need to have an LLC, but you don't need to go and get these net 30 accounts first to get approved for business credit. I see all these other business credit programs out there, and they're telling you that you need to go get these net 30 cards first. But there's plenty of testimonials that we've gotten from clients. One that I use in my videos pretty often is this one client. His name is Austin. He got approved for $228,000 of 0% interest business credit within the first 30 days of opening a brand new LLC. And we didn't apply for any net 30 accounts. So really what helped him get approved for all that funding was, number one, he had some comparable trade lines of, comparable high limits. So that way when he went to the bank, they saw that he had managed, to actually hold down like, high credit limits like that, right? He was able to manage it, and he was able to demonstrate that he can manage it. Another thing as well, guys, right? He had really good income, and he, had a business. Well, he had started a business, but he had really good income, and he had a really great credit score. And that's really all you need to get approved for business credit. You don't need all these, weird net 30 accounts, these vendor cards. You don't need a Dun Bradstreet number. Like half of these business credit gurus tell you. I'm here telling you right now, I've helped people get more than $60 million from the banks. We have never applied for a net 30 card or a Dun Bradstreet number, and our clients have done just fine. On average, like I mentioned before, they usually get around $100,000. Results vary based on their credit, but within 30 days, that's the average result. We have a whole spreadsheet of this. We took everyone from the lowest amount they get funding for to the highest amount, and when you do like the average formula of all of those results, it averages out around 100,000. So pretty cool results, but you do not need a net 30 account. Can I get business credit with poor credit? So I see all these guys on Instagram. They're like, hey, you could go get, a $75,000 line of credit with this bank with a 580 credit score. And I find it just to be like catfishing or just something like ridiculous, because you do need good credit to actually get approved for business credit. You can't just, have low credit and try to apply for business credit. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, what about some of these other cards I see out there, like the Capital on Tap card or the Divvy card? Now, sure, you don't have to have like the best credit to get approved for that, but you do need to show revenue. You do need to show that your bank account is actively pulling in revenue every single month to get approved for those cards. You could have like a 650 credit score and get approved for that if you're making a lot of money and could show a lot of money in your bank account. You could get more of those types of cards. But if you want to get business credit at 0% interest, and you want to get cards that you could pretty much spend everywhere, and you get really good welcome bonuses, cash back, really great rewards, you are going to need at least a 700 credit score to get really good results. And I've seen this happen tons of times, right? Even say if you have one late payment, it doesn't automatically disqualify you. If you have credit card debt and that's the only thing bringing down your score, we actually just recently did a training on how you could get something called a bridge loan and just simply pay down your credit cards, and your credit score will jump back up. And once your credit score is over 700, you should be able to get pretty good results. Someone just quickly asked, by the way, is this webinar going to be recorded? I might need to leave before it's over. Yes, we're going to record all of this. It'll be uploaded to YouTube, and we're going to chop up a bunch of shorts on it as well. So there's a lot of cool things that we're going to do with this mastermind. But yes, it'll be uploaded to YouTube probably within a couple of days. Within the week, we'll get it up there on YouTube for everyone to watch. So can I get business credit with poor credit? You're going to need to have at least a 700 credit score to really get substantial results. The results that I'm talking about, on average $100,000, those people had 700 plus credit scores. It's not necessarily attainable if you have like a 500 or 600 credit score, but if if you're in that range of like 500 to 670 or so, and you have too many late payments, too many bankruptcies, or like a bankruptcy or too many collections, right? You have, those things are bringing down your credit. Just let my team know. We have a couple of credit repair agencies that we work with who should be able to help you out. I don't do credit repair myself. I just do the business funding. So another one that you get online a lot is that, do you need a shelf corp or an aged corp to get business credit? So maybe you see these guys out there on Instagram all the time. They say that you should, create a trust, or you should have a shelf corp, or you should have an aged corp to get business credit. And the truth is, you could get those options, but you could also just use a brand new LLC, and the results aren't really that different. Maybe you could get a little bit more funding with an aged corp or a shelf corp, but the results really come down to whether or not you have a good personal credit score. to really get in the door with just like your first couple business credit cards, or even if you already have a business that's cash flowing 5 or 6 figures a month, all you really need is a good personal credit score to get approved for some really good business credit cards. And your business could also be just like a couple days old, and you could still apply for business credit cards. You can use, estimated revenues that, are realistic for what you're planning to achieve that year. And that's what's permissible, and that's what's allowed. So you don't need to have an aged corp. You don't need to have a shelf corp. You could just simply have a brand new LLC, and you could still get business credit. And if you don't have an LLC and you're someone who's interested in getting business credit, maybe it's through my program, we actually help our clients establish and create LLCs, and it takes like 5 minutes. It's actually a very, very, very quick and easy process to open up an LLC. And if you don't have one and you want help creating one, we can help you create one. So overall, guys, I know I'm going through some questions like super rapid fire, but let me know in the chat, like, how do you find this information? Do you find it valuable? Do you think that it's like really giving you like some actual perspective of, oh wow, like this is really what I need to get approved for business credit? Let me know in the chat, like, if you like it, give me like a thumbs up emoji. There's a little smiley face. You could just click on that, and you could just click the thumbs up button if you guys are having a good time and you guys are getting some good questions answered overall. So, we've gone through 5 questions so far. Oh, I got a smiley face. I love it. So we got a couple more. We got about 15 more questions, and then we'll open it up. And if you have questions in the Q&A, we're going to answer those too. So, how long does it typically take to establish a strong business credit profile? So, this question, right? A lot of people are asking about whether they need to build a business credit profile, like the Dun Bradstreet number, Experian business credit, you name it. Like, how long does it typically take to establish a strong business credit profile? So, like I mentioned before, you don't need to go and get Net 30 cards. You don't need to go and get vendor cards. You don't need to go and do all this stuff that all these business credit gurus are telling you to do. Really, what you should be focusing on is your personal credit and making that look as great as possible, because until you start making a lot of money, you really won't be considered for corporate credit, and not only that you're making a lot of money, but you're also demonstrating that for a prolonged period of time, you're not going to be considered for corporate liability only credit, right? Most of us, including myself, who's had an established business for a couple of years, are likely still going to be only open to personal guarantee cards. So to establish a strong business credit profile, it could take a couple months, honestly. You could just get approved for a business credit profile, having a strong personal credit profile, and now that you've started establishing that business credit relationship with that bank that you were approved with, if you could charge up that card and pay it down and charge it up and pay it down, then it's going to open the opportunity for you to get more lending products with that bank, and as little as just a few months, right? I've even worked with people, sometimes they've gotten approved for $2K on a card, and then we apply again 3 months later, and they're able to get $15,000, $20,000 per card because they had used that card and started establishing a relationship with that bank. So I see already a good question that I want to answer here. So how many business credit cards should I apply for at one time? So really the best way to apply for as many business credit cards at one time is to take into account which credit bureaus each credit card is going to pull from, right? You may want to do 2 to 3 per credit bureau, which means 2 to 3 per Experian, 2 to 3 per TransUnion, 2 to 3 per Equifax. Sometimes you might hit 4, but this is to make sure that your applications are spread out amongst all those bureaus and that one score isn't taking such a huge dive and they're taking like a 50-point dive. That should never happen unless you're applying for 10 things with the same bureau. What I like to tell people is that probably the most your credit score should drop is 15 to 20 points, but after 2 months, your credit score will go back up to what it was before. So are personal guarantees required when applying for business credit? So a lot of people out there know that there's personal guarantee cards and no personal guarantee cards. And a lot of the times people are looking for no personal guarantee cards because they don't want to be personally liable for that debt that they incur on that business credit card. But the problem with the information that's out there right now is that there's not enough really getting straight to the point on what you actually need to get approved for no personal guarantee. And the truth is, to get approved for these no personal guarantee cards is that although you're going to end up sacrificing things like 0% interest offers, cash back, and all these really great benefits, to get approved for a no personal guarantee card, it's going to come back down to you having established business history, you have established revenue that you can prove that you've been making, right? And you have to have that no personal guarantee proof to be qualifiable for, right? Like a bank is only going to be willing to give you no corporate, corporate only liability as long as you could actually prove that you could pay it. So a lot of the time, that's not really there for most companies, right? Since 0.4% of companies ever make it to doing 8 figures per year, which is a pretty insane stat. Think of it that way. 1 out of every 250 businesses in America will ever make it to making 8 figures a year. That's a pretty insane stat, right? And it's those businesses that typically no personal guarantee cards are, pretty exclusive for, right? And maybe you could get it at 7 figures per year. In rare cases, could you get it at 6 figures per year, but you would have to demonstrate that you've been making 6 figures a year for quite some time. But most of the time, you're going to need to do a personal guarantee to get approved for business credit unless you're generating a lot of revenue for your business and you have things like collateral, you have things like accounts receivable, equipment, inventory. You would have things for collateral where the bank could ensure that they could get paid back, right? So that would be the answer for a personal guarantee. What factors do lenders consider when evaluating a business credit application? So there's a lot of various factors that lenders will take a look at before they approve someone for a business credit card, whether it be a $50,000 card, a $10,000 card, a $100,000 card. I've personally gotten $149,000 on a single card. And what factors do these lenders actually look at when they're evaluating a business credit application? So probably 80% really depends on you having a strong personal credit score. The rest of it will go into different things such as what industry you are in with your business, what your comparable trade lines are. Those are like really big factors. What your income is. These are all going to be really important factors, as well as where you live and how long you've been making income for, how long have you had your credit limits for, right? But they're mostly going to look at your personal credit score. That's going to be the most important things that lenders will consider when evaluating a business credit card application. And a lot of people are probably thinking, well, this is, business credit, right? Like, why did they have to look at my personal credit? Well, someone has to be responsible for paying back that debt. And a lot of the time, the bank is going to look at your business, and there's a lot of people out there who are requesting business credit who don't have sufficient income to be corporate liability only. So they're going to have to take into consideration how trustworthy are you as a borrower, right? And what's the best way for them to find out is by looking at your personal credit. So most of the time, you're going to run into situations with business credit card applications where they're only going to be looking at your personal credit. And sure, like your other business factors, like your industry and all those things matter too. But these are going to be like the most important factors, really your personal credit. So as you've heard throughout all of this, like what really matters the most, guys? Let's like recap like what we've talked about so far. Probably personal credit being extremely important, right? Like you don't need that 30 cards, you don't need all this stuff. You really just need a strong personal credit profile, and you need to know how to fill out these applications to get approved for as much money as possible. Obviously, that's something that my team does every single day. We've helped people get over $60 million of 0% interest business credit card approvals. If If you're someone who's interested in accessing business credit for any business or investment that you want, you could drop your phone number and your credit score in the chat. My team could reach out to you, make sure that you would be a good fit for us to work together and help you out. So let's see. Let's take a quick moment to answer a couple of questions. Let's see. Do you have business? So this is a question more so for our program. Does your business, our funding program, have ways to use the funding to create passive income? So yeah, we have a bunch of different avenues that are working for other people already. We've helped over 2,000 people access business credit for their businesses and investments. And through that experience of working with over 2,000 people, we've been able to work with people who have something that's working for them already and people who do not have something that's working for them already. So because of that diverse crowd that we're attracting through our business funding offer, we're able to bring in people who are looking for things to do with the funding and connect them to different resources of people who are truly succeeding with the 0% interest funding they got their hands on. So it's really cool. So we have plenty of different things that are working for other people so that you don't have to do all this trial and error yourself, and you could just go down one of the avenues that someone has already tested out themselves. So the kind of funding that I'm talking about, does it have to be repaid back? I saw an ad on buying a business or crypto with it. So the thing about these 0% interest funding offers is that they're business credit card offers. So they are going to be these are going to be balances that you rack up that you're going to have to pay back. They're not like a grant where you're just given money and you never have to pay it back. You'll have to pay back the 0% interest funding, or the worst case scenario would be that you would have to file bankruptcy and settle for less than the dollar on these cards, right? Which obviously no one wants to do, and then that knocks you out of getting business credit for almost like your whole life, right? Which no one wants to do that. So yes, this funding does have to be repaid back. It's not like you don't ever pay it back. So what types of businesses are eligible for business credit? So you see a lot of people online that tell you that you need to have this NICS code, right? That only these businesses qualify for business credit and only these businesses qualify for business credit. But the truth is that almost every single type of business out there qualifies for business credit as long as it's got a really good plan to make money and be paid back. Really, the types of business lending products where it gets a lot more tricky is when you start getting into different things such as business line of credit and business loans. Then the banks are a lot more selective with who they choose to work with. At the business credit card level, they're pretty much open to working with anyone. But once you get into business line of credit and business loans, then they start tightening up the industries that they choose to work with. But that doesn't mean that you could use any NICS code or any industry code to apply for business credit. You still need to know what industry codes make sense and which ones that you could use to apply for business credit. You can't just apply with any random NAICS code. You have to apply with one that actually makes sense and that's not going to get you flagged. Pretty much almost every business is really eligible, but you just need to know how to classify your business correctly so that way you don't get flagged in the application process. And that kind of leads to the next question. Are there specific industries that find it easier or more difficult to obtain business credit? So there are definitely industries that are a lot easier than others to get business credit. And it's all about really understanding why the bank approves other industries for more funding than other industries. And a lot of it comes down to one key factor besides your credit score, besides how much money that you're making, and besides all these other different things. One of the biggest things that these lenders will approve based off of is the cash flowing activities that you're getting yourself involved with. So if you're doing things that are going to require heavy collateral, it's going to be a longer payback period, they're going to be a lot more resistant to actually giving you business credit. But if you're doing something that is cash flowing and it profits very easily, then they're going to be a lot more open to giving you business credit. That's what makes it a lot more easier, is businesses that are lower in risk and they cash flow and profit a lot more than those businesses that hold on to assets, that hold on to collateral, and you never know when they're going to get paid back. That's what the bank's biggest fear is, right? Because they're lending you this lending product and they want to get paid back. And they agree to certain terms with you. They say, hey, this is your application. We agree to extend this much credit to you. And they're agreeing based on what you're telling them, right? And they're going to do an evaluation of your business and see how risky it is and see what kind of profits that you can make. And based on those answers that you provide to them, which our company helps you, come up with those answers, then they will approve you based on, what industry you're in, what credit score you have, how much money you make, and all those other factors. But that's going to be the difference between going with a lower risk industry and a higher risk industry and how the bank chooses to look at it. So a little bit more long-winded of an answer, but pretty detailed for you guys. Like I mentioned, guys, I don't hold anything back. I'm here to tell you the truth. I'm here to tell you what you actually need to know to get approved for business credit without going through any of the fluff or any of the BS that's out there online that all these other guys talk about. So what are the advantages of building business credit versus relying solely on personal credit? So obviously, as we've mentioned throughout this webinar, right? To get approved for business credit, it does depend on you having really good personal credit. But what are the advantages of building business credit versus relying solely on personal credit? So someone may want to take that jump from, using their personal credit cards for their business, using their personal credit cards for everything that they spend their money on, and move it into spending all that money with your business for many reasons. One of those reasons could include tax reasons, right? If you're spending money on your business credit cards, right, it's going to be a lot easier to keep track of those books. Another reason someone may want to actually use business credit cards is that when you max out those business credit cards, that balance that you max out on those business credit cards does not report to your personal credit. So that's a huge, 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 huge benefit that you could literally get approved for a $50,000 business credit card and max that out on, whatever you'd like, ads, property, whatever it may be, right? Or just anything, right? You can max it out and your personal credit score is not going to drop, right? And now that you're managing these high limits, right, you're demonstrating to the bank that you're capable of getting access to a lot of money and paying it back, right? You're able to, rack up high balances and pay it back. On top of that, you get a lot of great cashback and welcome bonus benefits on these business credit cards. Probably one of my favorite cards, I get 2.5% cash back on purchases over $5,000. There's no other personal credit card that I can do that with on everyday purchases. And so I use that card all the time, and I'm constantly racking up tens of thousands of dollars of cash back every single month. So there are so many advantages to using business credit versus personal credit, but probably my favorite thing about using business credit is that it doesn't affect my credit score if I decide to max out the card and really invest into my business. Someone asked, can I partner up with someone in my household that has a stronger FICO and income than I do? Absolutely. You always try to use so when you're applying for business credit, you always want to use the best applicant, the best business, just everything the best possible so you can get the best possible results, right? Even if that means using your business partner, even if that means using a different LLC, even if that means, all these other small little things I can cover to, get approved for that business credit. So we got a lot of good questions. I'm going to save them for the end since I'm almost done with these. So how can I improve my business credit score if it's low? So if you have a low business credit score, you could use a lot of the same strategies that you would use to build up your personal credit to improve your business credit score, right? You could add more accounts to your business credit, right? You could add more net 30 accounts, even though we talk about that we don't really use net 30 accounts, right? You can, hold on to your cards for a long time. You could, diversify the amount of cards that you have. So there's tons of different ways to improve your business credit score, similarly to how you would improve your personal credit score. So what documentation is typically required when applying for business credit? So A lot of people out there I find are a little bit nervous to apply for business credit because they're not sure what the bank is going to ask them. They're afraid, is the bank going to ask me for tax returns, bank statements, pay stubs? What documentation is the bank going to ask me when I apply for business credit? And the truth is, most of these banks don't require you to show any documentation at all besides your articles of incorporation and your EIN letter. You actually don't really need to show much documentation to get approved for business credit because most of these banks really just go off of what you state on the application, and in good faith, they're going to take your word and trust the answers that you put on your application. Almost 90% of the time, they're never going to ask you for tax returns or bank statements unless it's some super strict bank. So, are there any specific strategies for startups to establish business credit quickly? So, a lot of great strategies that you can use to establish business credit quickly are a lot of things that we actually cover inside of our business funding program. If you're someone who obviously wants to get access to funding for any business or investment that you want, and you want to start establishing your business credit, you want to start building relationships with banks, and start using that credit to fund your business so that way you can make tons and tons of money, then you could obviously, reach out to our team and we're more than happy to help you out. All you got to do is, you could use any of the info on the bottom, whether it's text us, you could drop your phone number, your credit score, in the chat, and we're more than willing to reach out to you to see if we can help you out with getting business credit. But in terms of any specific strategies, it's a lot of stuff that we've actually covered. Really, having a great personal credit score is going to be the start to really getting approved for business credit quickly. So, is it true that having a high personal credit score guarantees easy access to business credit? It's so important to understand how business credit is actually approved. As you could tell with a lot of the answers that we've given out tonight, the way to get approved for business credit is by having a high personal credit score, especially when it comes to getting business credit cards that you can actually use. The problem with all these Net 30 cards and all these vendor cards is that you can't even use them anywhere you'd like. You can't spend a Uline card everywhere, you can't spend a Shell card everywhere, but you can spend like an Amex everywhere, right? And to get approved for those kinds of credit cards, to get approved for that kind of business credit, you really only need to have a good personal credit score. You don't even have to have super high income either. As long as you've demonstrated great borrowing history with your personal credit, you could get approved for super high limits with no problems. So, are there limitations on the amount of business credit a small business can obtain? So, typically in the first round of funding, the limitations that a small business may see when they're applying for business credit is usually someone who's highly qualified, and this is someone who has really high income, really high credit score. The most I've ever seen someone get in just one singular round was around $330,000, maybe upward of $350,000. So usually in the first round, maybe you could cap out at around $350,000 to $400,000, but those are going to be the super high quality people who already have established businesses, that already have really great income, that already have high credit scores. And for people who have a brand new business, maybe you're going to cap out at around $250,000. Overall, over time, if you're someone like me who's been building business credit for about 3 years now, I could access up to $1 million of credit right now if I really wanted to. I have $450,000 I could spend on one card, another $150,000 I could spend on another card, another $50,000 I could spend on another card, and I could total up even more cards, and it's probably going to come close to $1 million. And that's not even including some of the cards that I could still go out and apply for. I have pre-approvals with many other places, but I just don't need the credit right now. So, the more that you actually invest yourself into getting business credit, the more you start making money with your business, the more you're going to be able to get approved for. Just last night, I was just fooling around and requested a credit limit increase, and I tripled my credit line, but I use that card all the time. And at first, I was given like a smaller, $10,000 limit, but I was able to get it increased to $30,000 because I've been using it for quite some time. So that's going to be really important. Like, why should the bank give you more money if you're not going to use it? So the way to get approved for a lot of credit is to use your credit. The more you use your credit, the more you rack it up and you pay it down, the more you're going to be able to get approved for. Someone's asking, so what about holding companies? Yeah, you can use holding companies to get approved for business credit. You can almost use practically any industry as long as it's not ridiculously high risk. You want to use the right NAICS code that is not necessarily going to get you flagged, and a company would be a fine company to use. Will applying for business credit negatively impact my personal credit score? So I think a lot of people get nervous about applying for business credit using their personal credit score because they're afraid that their personal credit score is going to drop. And I'm going to tell you right now, like the most that could really happen by applying for business credit using your personal credit. Really, the immediate things that are going to happen, obviously, are that you're going to have credit inquiries posting on your credit bureaus, right? And so if you're applying for maybe 3 cards with Experian, your score is probably going to drop anywhere between 15 to 30 points, but after about 2 or 3 months or so, your credit score should go back to what it was when you first applied. Say that you had a 750 credit score when you applied, it went down to like a 730, give it about 2 months and it'll probably go back to a 750 credit score. The only way that your personal credit score is going to be super impacted, right, would be, say, if you were late on a payment, or if you allowed charge-offs to happen, or if you decide to file bankruptcy. That stuff would start showing up on your personal credit. But even maxing out a personal credit card, even maxing out a business credit card is not going to drop your personal credit score. Because when you max out a business credit card, it doesn't report the balance that you've charged to your business credit card to your personal credit report. So you could actually, avoid your personal credit score going down by applying and getting approved for business credit cards, as long as it's okay with you that you're going to get a couple inquiries, but your score will go back up to what it was before in no time. So this is a good one that we get often. Is it necessary to have a physical office address to qualify for business credit? So you might see a lot of business gurus online telling you that you need to have a physical address in order to apply for business credit, that you shouldn't use a virtual address, or maybe you should, like whether you should or you should not. A lot of people talking about anonymity, right? Like whether I should stay anonymous with my business. And to be honest with you guys, you definitely need to have some kind of physical address that the bank can walk up to and physically see something is there. And there's very creative ways to do this. One thing that is a no-no for the bank is a P.O. box, but there are workarounds to it. One of the strategies that we use for this physical office address right now, there's many different ways with our clients that will do this when we're filing for an LLC. But we're going to take the situation where if someone is super persistent or they've already filed their LLC and it's a P.O. box, one of the strategies that we'll actually do when filing for business credit is to just make that address seem like it's an actual physical address, and we'll put the P.O. box as something like a suite number or an apartment number or a unit number, and we'll use the actual address of the place in which you have your physical address, right? But it needs to be an actual place that the bank can walk up to. Can I apply for business credit if I operate as a sole proprietorship? So you run into people sometimes who have business credit and they're a sole proprietor. They don't even have an LLC. And you can actually do this. One thing that you may experience are those business credit cards reporting to your personal credit score. So if you want to make sure that you avoid that altogether, you could just make a single member LLC, and you could apply for business credit with that single member LLC with that EIN. And if you're picking the right banks to apply for business credit, then you're going to be able to start getting approved for business credit, even if your LLC is a day old. And when you start racking up balances on those business credit cards, it won't report to your personal credit score. So even if you're a one-man business, even if you only have had a business for a day, you could still apply for business credit. And I think this is my last one that I got here. So, is it true that business credit card applications require a significant upfront fee or deposit? No. So when you're applying for business credit cards, the thing that makes it free money is the fact that the bank charges you nothing for it. On top of that, you don't even have to pay any interest as long as you make the minimum payment on the credit card during that first 6, 12, 18 months that they give you the promotional 0% offer. So you don't have to pay any money up front to the bank to get approved for a business credit card. If you want to increase your chances a little bit, you could open up a business checking account, but that's still your money. You're not paying anything to get approved for a business credit card by applying with a bank. There's no annual fee on many of these 0% cards, and a lot of the times they're paying you to actually get approved for this business credit card. And the reason I say that is because they give you cash back, they give you welcome bonuses, they give you great offers to get these 0% interest business credit cards to gain your business, and you don't have to pay any money up front, and you don't have to pay any interest for the first 6, 12, 18 months that you get approved for that 0% interest business credit card. Ideally, pay it back before the end of the 12, 18 months, so that way you don't have to pay interest, but you don't have to pay any origination points. You don't have to, pay anything to get approved for that business credit card. Now, if someone wanted my company's assistance in getting approved for 0% interest business credit, right, we offer a service where we leverage the strategies that we've learned after helping over 2,000 people access more than $60 million of business credit from the banks. And if you want our assistance with helping you access business credit, you could just simply message us and we're more than willing to help you out. You could drop your phone number, your credit score in the chat, and my team can reach out to you, or you could reach out to us at whatever it says on the screen below. Right? And so I want to spend some time now actually going through some of your questions that you guys have. While we got about 15 minutes left, I want to go through a lot of your questions. So a lot of you guys have some extra questions. This one's a solid FAQ, one. Let me know, guys, if you found a lot of those questions applicable. Did you guys know all those answers? Let me know in the chat. Just give me a yes or a no. And if you found that to be pretty helpful, to just cut through all the BS and get rid of all the fluff and really get to what you actually need to get approved for business credit. So as you guys are just dropping that in the chat, some people are already saying that was super helpful. So let's see here. You guys have a lot of questions. Guys, and if I don't answer your question, send your question to this phone number right here. If I didn't answer your question, text this phone number, or even just text that phone number now with your question. That way, if your question doesn't get answered right now, at least it will get answered after this webinar. So I'm going to try and get through as many of these questions as I possibly can. But if you want to make sure that your question gets answered, just message this phone number and we'll make sure to answer your question. So does your program help write business plans? And so does my program help write business plans to get credit? And are writing business plans helpful? So having a business plan and making sure that you know exactly what you're going to do with the funding is going to be extremely helpful when you go and talk to a business banker or a relationship manager. And that's something that we do help our clients with, so that way they know exactly what to say, exactly what to do when they go and talk to the bank. That way they don't run into a situation where they go to the bank and they're not prepared with what to say. So, and that's how we're able to scoop more money than what most other business credit card companies help their clients get, because as opposed to us just applying ourselves online through all these algorithms, we're able to help you get approved for more business credit by actually being engaged in the process with you and helping you go into some banks yourself, because there's a lot more money that you can get that we can't physically walk into some of those banks for you, and that's the best strategy for some of those banks. Some of these banks will not do anything remotely, so we have to walk into the bank and we'll tell you which ones to walk into, what to say, what to do, so that way you could use that business plan and get approved for the funding that you're looking for. So quick little comment someone made. I need $250,000 to invest in an oil well. And we have 3 oil wells and it's bringing in monthly passive income. That is awesome. Congrats on that. That's a sweet business opportunity. And even just that alone right there, right? Someone just jumped in here and said that they have a project and they're making passive income, right? Obviously, there's a lot of people who join our program who are interested in finding things like that. And back to someone's question before where they asked, do you guys help people with different avenues in which we can go down? And yes, there's always people joining our program who are not sure what to do with the funding, and then there's people who join who already have something that they're using funding for. And then we're able to bridge those 2 people together so that way everyone actually wins, everyone gets business credit and actually has something they can use it for. So someone's asking, I started my business in November 2023. Would I need to file business taxes? If you haven't made any revenue in your business and you filed late last year in 2023, I'm not a CPA, but you should not have to file business taxes because there's nothing that you could really be taxed on, right? If you don't have any revenue for your business yet, you shouldn't have to file any taxes. This is a good one. So true or false? Company website, company email, dedicated phone line, So do I actually need a website, an email, a dedicated phone line to get approved for business credit? Honestly, not exactly. You don't really need all those things. A lot of people online think that you do need all those things, but truthfully, the bank doesn't really care. Some stricter banks may ask for those things, but a lot of the easier banks out there don't really care if you have a website. They don't really care if you have a company email or a dedicated phone line, because at the end of the day, they're buying into you. The bank will determine whether or not to approve you for credit based on you. What's a good personal credit score to start applying for business credit cards? At least a 700 plus is ideally. Let's see what else we got here. Ooh, okay, so someone asked, if I've already filed an LLC with a specific NAICS code, can I go back and change it? So if you filed your LLC with one NAICS code, it's not the end of the world. You could always go back in and change it. If you're running into banks that are asking for tax returns, which have your NAICS code on the bottom of your tax returns, it's not even that big of a deal if it doesn't exactly match. But what does need to be consistent is the actual business activities you're truly engaging in. The truth is that entrepreneurs are shifting gears all the time. When I started my business, I thought I was going to be doing e-commerce, and then I was doing an agency, and then I was doing sales, and then it was a funding business. And now it's really a funding business. At this point, my business is a funding business. And so I probably won't be changing my NAICS code for a business that's really blown up like this. But for one that's still getting started and it's not doing like huge numbers, and maybe your tasks and your jobs and different contracts that you're doing are changing, your NAICS code could also change with that. So how many applications are good for a funding plan? So if you're trying to make yourself a funding plan and you want to have the right number of applications, so that way you could get approved for the most amount of credit in the least amount of time while also maximizing the amount of results that you can get, usually a number around 6 to 12 is what people can often do. Obviously, the more the better, but we usually try to keep it to like 3 to 4 inquiries per credit bureau before it starts getting out of hand. So on a balance transfer, for a 0% credit card, and I want to do a balance transfer, is there a balance transfer fee? So if you're transferring a balance from one credit card to another, and both cards are 0% credit cards, right? Maybe you have this one 0% credit card that has 1 month left on the APR, and then you have this brand new one with an 18-month 0% offer. To balance transfer it from that one card to another card, yeah, you usually have to pay like a 3 or 5% fee to make that balance transfer. But the good news is that you're not going to have to pay any interest on that new business credit card on the minimum payments, as long as you're making those minimum payments. As long as you pay it off within that 18 months and you make the minimum payment, you don't have to pay any interest on the balance, but you do have to pay a balance transfer fee on that new business credit card. a lot of people see me online talking about Chase and this new program, and you could access $150,000, and it's totally possible, but who actually qualifies for it? So obviously you need at least a 700 credit score to be considered for that program that Chase is offering. And then on top of that, you obviously need to have a business as well, because the way that you could get up to $150,000 of 0% interest business credit with Chase is by having an LLC. Now, there's a little bit more to it. And if you're someone, however, the only way where you maybe would not qualify for this with Chase is if you had a charge off with them in the past. If you had a charge off with Chase in the past, you may not qualify because they are pretty hardcore about being, what's the word? Yeah, Chase is pretty stubborn about their rules. If you've burned them once in the past, they pretty much cut you off and they don't want to do business with you again, and it's pretty disappointing. So someone asked, do you have recommended ways to improve your personal credit to qualify for $100,000 of 0% interest business credit? So if you want to really improve your chances to get approved for of getting approved for business credit, and you want to get at least $100,000, there's a couple of things that you can do to increase your chances of getting approved for that kind of money. Number one, obviously take care of your personal credit. And that's going to be the main thing that you're going to have to do. And there's a couple of things inside of that you're going to want to know. You should increase your credit limits so that way you have higher comparable trade lines and that you could show the bank that you're trusted with high credit limits. Why should Bank A trust you if Bank B can only give you $2,000? If Bank B, however, could give you $10,000, that's a lot more convincing of an argument to get Bank A to give you at least $10,000 on a business credit card. Applying for personal credit cards and holding on to them and taking some time to allow those accounts to age is another recommendation I would give to someone who wants to improve their chances of getting approved for high amounts of business credit. And then one other thing that you can do, right, is one little hidden factor that the banks actually look at when you're getting approved for business credit is that when the bank evaluates your application and when they pull your credit to look at your personal credit score, one thing that they look at that not many people know that they look at is what was your highest balance that you've ever had on your credit card. Maybe you have a $10,000 credit card, but the highest balance you've ever had on that credit card was $3,000. The bank's going to be able to see that. That is something that they can pull on your credit report, right? But if you have a $10,000 card and you've maxed it out and paid it down, the bank's going to see that, and it's going to help with getting a higher approval on a business credit card. If you get approved for all this credit and don't use it, the bank's going to look at that and they're going to see that, and you're likely going to get a smaller credit limit. So guys, we have a few minutes left, and I'll probably answer a couple more questions for you guys. But while we have a few minutes left, I just want to make one quick final announcement, obviously. If you're someone who's interested in getting approved for up to $250,000 of 0% interest business credit for your businesses and investments, make sure to drop your phone number and your credit score in the chat, and my team will reach out to you to help you get started with the process with us tonight. And they'll break down how it works and how you could get started with us tonight and how we can help you get approved for up to $250,000 of 0% interest business credit for your businesses and investments. Ooh, this is a good question. So someone asked, sometimes, right, if your personal credit, if you've had one slip up with a bank in the past, but you make a lot of money, can money talk? And when you're applying for business credit, a lot of the time, personal credit does make a huge factor in whether you're approved for business credit or not. Ideally, you need to have that credit score as great as it can be, and ideally, it's at least 700 plus. If you've had one small mistake with a bank in the past, sometimes money can talk and get you a bigger decision. One time, I maxed out a card, and the card was closed on me. Later on, I wound up getting approved for another business credit card with that bank. But early on when I maxed out a card, I got that account closed. But at the time when I started making a lot of money and started proving my worth and started proving that I'm a good client to work with, all those things in the past pretty much were thrown out. And that's probably one big one that I actually haven't covered. How can personal credit not matter as much on a business credit card application? The way that personal credit cannot matter on a business credit card application, and the way that you could increase your chances of getting approved despite not having the best personal credit score, is by building relationships with banks. That means opening up business checking accounts with banks, opening up business savings, having all of your revenue flowing through that account and making all of your payments from that account. The more you could flow in and out of that business checking account, that's going to be a really great indicator to the bank that you can actually handle business credit with that bank. Maybe even open a secured card, which we don't often do, but any way that you can demonstrate good borrowing history and you can demonstrate that you're a serious client to the bank, they may consider your credit score a lot less and they may give you a better approval despite not having the best personal credit score. What if you have no credit? If you don't have any credit, I would suggest going into my link in bio on my Instagram account. I have a personal credit course that I show to people, and it'll show you how to get approved for your first couple of personal credit cards. Some of the best personal credit cards that someone could apply for if they don't have any credit at all are a Discover card, a Capital One card, and even an Apple card. And these are cards that you could actually pre-qualify for online, and you could see if you're going to get approved before you actually go ahead and apply. And if you're someone who's brand new to credit and you're trying to build your credit for the first time, you could apply for one of those cards and likely get approved without any problems. Where is the credit course? My son really needs this. Yeah, so it's in my Instagram bio. It's called the Personal Credit Blueprint. Really solid. It definitely talks a little bit about funding and how you could use credit to, the Personal Credit Blueprint program in my bio. It talks a lot about how to build your personal credit so that way you can get funding in the future, but it does teach you all aspects of your credit too. Like I talk about late payments, I talk about credit card utilization, I talk about all the different factors on your personal credit. So you could totally show it to your son, you could totally show it to your daughter, you could totally show it to your grandkids, you could show it to anyone who's building credit for the first time, and they're going to be able to get a really good quick understanding of the things that matter on your personal credit when you're applying for credit cards. Yeah, so I want to make this note. I'll give you guys like a little freebie. So if you have seen the Capital One business credit card, I've seen people get approved for super high limits, but there's one problem with that Capital One business credit card is that although it says that it's a business credit card and you could get all these great perks on it, I think it has 1.5% cash back, and it's a business credit card, right? And you could use it for your business, but it actually reports to your personal credit report, and it kind of defeats the purpose of getting a business credit card. There are other banks where you could charge money on that credit card and it doesn't report to your personal credit card. But if you're going with Capital One, you're going to end up seeing those balances that you're racking up on that Capital One business credit card reporting to your personal credit. So that kind of stinks and defeats the purpose of getting business credit. So I would apply to any bank besides Capital One. So guys, if you have a question that I haven't answered yet, please text this phone number at the bottom of the screen, 732-936-7993, and my team will reach out to you to answer your question. I'll give everyone about a minute to go and text that phone number. And if you're someone who's interested in getting up to $250,000 of 0% interest funding for your businesses and investments, drop your phone number, drop your credit score in the chat. Someone on my team will reach out to you tonight to get you started on the process of getting approved for 0% interest business credit. And if I didn't answer your question yet, you could text that phone number at the bottom left of the screen. And my team and I are more than happy to answer all of your questions and really give you the best insight and the best knowledge on how to actually get approved for business credit, since we've already done it for over 2,000 people and have gotten approved for over $60 million. The average client who finishes their first funding cycle often gets around $100,000 on average, which is a pretty awesome average result for our clients, and just shows that we really know what we're doing here and we really know how to help people get approved for the most amount of funding possible. So if you guys are interested in getting 0% interest funding for any business or investment that you want, I hope that you dropped your phone number and your credit score. If you haven't, you just take a picture of that phone number on the screen. You could email us. You can message me on Instagram. I'm all over the place. I'm in every inbox all day, every day. And while also helping tons of people, it's a busy day every day. But I hope that everyone had a great night. And I hope that everyone, let me see here. Let me see one more question actually. When will this recording be available for viewing? It should be available in next week. Chris, let me give you a shout out. We got Chris Cinematic in the house tonight. We got Chris Cinematic right here.
What's up,
this
guys?
man is a beast. This guy does all my videography. If you guys want your videography done professionally, you gotta follow Chris Cinematic on Instagram. Chris_Cinematic. He's the best in Miami. There's all these posers out there popping up, and they're a bunch of phonies and they're a bunch of fakes, but Chris Cinematic is the most real one in the game. So I just had to give that shout out to Chris Cinematic. Shows up at 7 o'clock on a Tuesday night to film. So you gotta give it up for Chris Cinematic. But I hope everyone had a great night. Someone said Miami in the house, what an OG. Yeah, Chris, born and raised in Miami. So hope everyone had a great night. I look forward to every Tuesday with you guys. It's fun for me. I hope it's fun for you guys. And I hope to see you on the inside of our funding program where we could add you to our $60 million of approvals. Hope everyone has a great night, and I'll talk to you all soon.